Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube hyperlink. That was the only way I could deal with the media constriction on Dima. So here's my setup when you initially walk up to it. Don't mind the trunk trim being removed. And then when you actually come down here, here's the rack and ceiling we're talking about. So first things first, let's talk about the issues that I mentioned. So like as you can see here, it's not a flat surface. If you're familiar with Nick Apicella's Volvo build, I looked at it and I saw how he did it with metal stock, and he got really lucky to where his ceiling is basically flat, but mine is not. Not only are there different elevation points here, but even the points that seem level, they're actually like sloped a little bit. So it doesn't really allow for like a frame surface to be applied in this application. And then you have these reinforcement rails I was mentioning that make it even harder to deal with. So anyways, let's get to, how I'm trying to combat all that nonsense. So as you can see here, I've made the fastening points, in front here to the most even, points of the ceiling across there. And then you can see, a very small tab back there, and then another tab over there. And this is actually, surprisingly, if anything, it's worked perfectly fine for like 2 years. There's not a lot of weight. That's a Hertz HCP1D. It's super light. That's my Helix DSP.3S. There is another amplifier over here, which is like a super cheap JBL DSP 4086, I believe. And it's actually in the factory location on the quarter panel shelf equivalent on this side. Why wouldn't I just mount an amplifier back there or there, and then have the remaining gear just on this shelf? That amp I got for around $400 on Amazon. If I get into a car crash, somebody hits my quarter panel, and that amplifier gets destroyed, I have no qualms about it whatsoever. But throwing losing a Helix P6 Ultimate or some Mosconis, to some jackass who hit me, I can't deal with that. And I think that this would work if I put my mind to it enough. So anyways, let me get into using these standoff spacers. So if you haven't kind of seen where I'm getting at already, so these existing riv nuts would be utilized still. I believe they're only M6s. So here I'd do the same kind of thing. I'd probably try and beef it up a little bit, at least go M8. I haven't really sized that up yet. But then, to mainly deal with clearing, these reinforcement rails here, I could use standoff spacers to raise, the rack, and then have the amps be inverted on the bottom end. I don't really mind that. I've read how people are like, yeah, you got to be a contortionist to make adjustments and shit. I do enough contortioning, with all the other crap I do in my car anyways, so I don't really mind that aspect. But where was I going? Here I go losing myself again. This is actually the 5th time I've filmed this. So yeah, P6 in the back, basically where the existing rack is, and then I would use the standoffs here. I think the main reason I'm okay, maybe I got to go with standoffs and do what I'm thinking, currently is, why don't I just make another shelf, a cage type shelf right now up to this row right here. Well, if I had the P6 Ultimate there and then the Mosconis side by side, in front here, that would fit with, the cage just being expanded out to this row. But if you include all the wiring from there on, it would not work. It would be too tight, probably, just not work out too well. So I'm like, okay, well, how could I, protrude out even further? So I'm like, well, if I go inverted, then it's standing off of the surface, and I can have it come out like another inch or so, and that would give me just enough room to get everything else going on in there. And so basically, to deal with that, and also the fact that all of these fastening points are like uneven, I would use a combination of coupling nuts, threaded coupling nuts for the proper size fastener, and then just to get the actual like minor differences in height, to get a perfectly level surface, standoff surface, I would use nylon spacers in conjunction with those coupling nuts. So then you have this stilted rack off of the surface, that gives you a way bigger area, to just fasten up the amps in an inverted configuration. I think last but not least, since I'm keeping on track the most with this fifth or sixth try on this video, so I talked about 4-pointing it, and like that's like just from like a structural integrity kind of perspective, from like doing it like this, is like, okay, well, I expanded out my rack with my ideas enough to give enough space for the amps and the wiring, but now my amp rack is literally on stilts and has the potential to have sway from vehicle motion induced upon it. Okay, how do we deal with that? Well, if I come out here and do a 4-point mount configuration, here, add some more riv nuts there, and then use those existing back locations. And I think since it's inverted, I could either now use that middle one there, or I might even just say screw it and use that bottom partition there for redoing the rear 4-point mounting. So in the end, it would be fastened to the back there, or up on this partition where it currently is, and then to prevent from side swaying, it would be fastened out here, and then to go along with the back fasteners for forward and back sway, just some quick little fasteners right here. Yeah, so I think that's everything. I'm gonna try putting this on YouTube now, and I know I'm long-winded, so I apologize. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again.